Recorded in sinfully sunny Las Vegas, Nevada. Avantpop Bookstore presents interviews. Joining us today is Michael Maysonet, aka StonerDude. StonerDude is an artist and a drummer musician living here in Las Vegas. Growing up, he was inspired by artists like Charles Schultz and Chuck Jones as a young boy, and then later on in life, artists like Robert Crumb and Big Daddy Roth and Frank Frazetta. StonerDude is also a musician here in Las Vegas, playing for a multitude of bands as the drummer and his own band, Bong. Joining us now, StonerDude. All right. Joining me now, we got Michael Maysonet, a.k.a. StonerDude.
Thank you. And you're welcome.
Yes, it's such an honor to have you. It's always good to see you. We don't get to see enough of you.
I know you're here at the shop, working, keeping Avantpop books going, and I thank you for that. And before we get started, because the reason I'm here, one of the millions of reasons I'm here, is because of the great Avantpop Books Publishing. My coloring book can be bought at the store. Where's the camera? Is that the camera?
That's the camera.
Get a close up.
You got it.
That's the StonerDude coloring book. 24 pages, a cornucopia of pages you can color and go crazy, color your brains out. The StonerDude coloring book, you can get it at stonerdudeart.com.
That's right.
I'll be doing this many times during the course of this interview.
Avantpop Publishing's first non-family member.
I'm very proud to be part of it.
You were the first one we published outside of myself.
I'm honored for that.
Wow, dude, we were glad to get you.
Which is really cool because you've gotten so many other great artists and writers for the publishing company since then. So, I feel like I kind of helped us.
You really did. It's true. I mean, when we show people your work, it's like, oh, okay. They kind of get the vibe.
Nice, yeah. I also sell the coloring books at a lot of comic book conventions that I frequent. I have an art table. My next one is the amazing Las Vegas Comic-Con here in Vegas, the end of April, and they're annual. But all the different Comic-Cons around town, sometimes I'll travel out of town, and I got my box of books, my StonerDude art.
That's where we met you. That's where we met you. Was at a Comic-Con.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah. Well, there you go. I guess it's worth it.
And then we got you into the Vegas Cannabis Coloring Book issue, which comes out this month. Should be out this week.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's the third time, I think.
And that's what spawned the coloring book. Very thankful to Vegas Cannabis Magazine because first of all, the fact that they promote art. Artists like that and publish them and get them in the magazine so everybody can see their artwork and get to color it. I did 2 years of that. I do it every year, but the first 2 years I did that, and you approached me and said, "Hey, let me go a little bit further back. In my mind, I was already manifesting,
you were
wishing and praying. Wow, I sure would like to do a whole coloring book as opposed to just one image." And then one day you contacted me and said, "What do you think about doing a whole book?" And my eyes and my brain blew up, and it was awesome. It was like an epiphany and a dream come true, really. To imagine being a little kid, me at one time when I was a little stoner baby, and I was just kind of, looking at coloring books thinking, I could do that, or I think I could do that. And then finally getting the opportunity to do that is pretty cool, and I'm very thankful for that.
Oh, right on. We're stoked to have you. Well, let's go back to those times. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up. I don't think I have yet. I'm still barely 5'6", and that's with good posture. But as far as early on, I was born in New York, in the Bronx, but I consider myself a Californian because I moved there when I was like 6. Yeah. And so I'm a California dude. I grew up mostly in Southern California, and then later many years in the Bay Area. So all of California, and but in Southern California, when I was very young, I was starting to draw more and more. I started drawing pretty much since I was like maybe 3. As long as the moment I can remember being, when we're all young, that time when we're walking around and doing things and seeing this world around us, drawing came very easy for me. Well, I should take that back. That sounds very arrogant, but it's true. It just came natural.
Yeah.
It came natural. I would watch my favorite cartoons like Bugs Bunny and Popeye and Disney. The Mickey Mouse was the easiest one because it was just 3 circles.
Right.
And basically, when you're a publisher, maybe you can even explain this to me. When you put out a book, there's like a blank page in the beginning and a blank page at the end.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's for, but I remember being very young, a little kid, and seeing blank paper. And that's where I would start to draw. I would open up a book. Yeah. I couldn't read yet. So I would just see the blank paper and start drawing my favorite cartoon character. So what is that blank paper for? Because I'd like to thank whoever came up with that idea.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's usually to, when you have you have to have a certain amount of pages in your book to make it even it out. To even it out.
Gotcha.
Sometimes it's also what connects a hardcover to the rest of the pages.
Right. Well, that's where I started.
Yeah.
On that blank. Here's a whole book. It could be all the most prolific, profound
Dante,
writings.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but I just cared about the blank page. That I had plenty of room to draw on.
It makes sense. I mean, that's pretty smart as a kid.
Well,
Yeah, which reminds we were talking about early on with your tell us. I want to hear your Pog story because that one
nobody else wants to hear my Pog story.
I mean, it's a classic one. That's like retro. Everyone's into retro, and Pogs are pretty retro.
Yeah, it's so funny because the older you get,
everything becomes retro.
Everything's retro. It feels like yesterday. And I remember being younger, and then whatever was retro back then. I'm like, oh, that's retro. So. For example, the term classic rock.
Yeah.
Remember that term, classic rock? I'm also a musician. I love rock and roll and all music to go with it. But once upon a time, classic rock meant like music from the 60s.
Motown.
And 70s and all that, 50s, 60s, 70s. And just the other day, I was hanging out with some friends, and they were like, some of them were in their early 20s. And they were talking about vintage and classic, and they weren't even born until like 20 years ago. And anything before that is like they consider that classic and vintage and all that. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Now it's not Bad Company and the Rolling Stones. Now it's
Billy Idol and Guns N' Roses.
That's classic rock.
Yeah, that's classic rock now. Yeah.
But hey, classic is a good thing. Classic means that it's great and that it lasts forever. So, What was the question?
Well, let's go back even further because I don't know which came first.
The chicken or the egg? The farmer or the chicken?
You've had a lot of art ventures and music ventures, but the art venture, you had a brick and mortar at one time. How old were you when you had your own shop?
Well, that's okay. So when you say brick and mortar, I had my own art studio. It was totally illegal, totally against the rules. I was in the Bay Area, Northern California, and I needed a place to live, really, is what it came to. I was living out of my vehicle at the time with my dog, and I was playing drums and traveling all over the Bay Area and Northern California, playing in clubs and bars and saving my money. Thankfully, the band Pantera hired me to paint a T-shirt design, and it gave me like $1,000 in one shot, and I used that money. I'm like, I need a place to live. So I go to downtown Alameda, Park Street. For those of you who don't know, Alameda, to me, it's one of the great secrets or great gems of the Bay Area that not a lot of people know about. So I guess I'm breaking the rules by exposing. But anyway, so I find this little town, Alameda, and I really fell in love with it. I wanted to live there. I wanted to hang there for a while. And I see a for rent sign on one of the shops right in downtown. I'm talking like the heart of the town, like the main area where the bars are and the fire station and restaurants and everything like that. Excuse me. And there's this really old shop, really beat up. Whoever had it prior must have been there forever and never did anything to upkeep it. It had like I had to literally tear the floors out. But back to the point when you talk about the brick and mortar and how to get that. So I'm homeless, for lack of better words, happily homeless, by the way. I do homeless good. I'm okay with it. When I was doing it, I wasn't like living on the streets, you know, panhandling so much. It was just that I chose to live in very small means so that I could save up money to get what I want.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I take the, you know, the number on the for rent sign. I call it. It's a private owner of the building. And the guy met me at the actual place, showed me around. I told him I was interested. I filled out the application. It was really beat up and it needed a lot of work. I mean, it was really, really old. I don't know if you know Alameda or the Bay Area, but it's a lot of older buildings that are very run down and no hot water. Really, really just dilapidated. So he was lucky just to even get rid of it, because whoever was going to get it was going to have to put a lot of money into it. I'm like, I'll take it. You know, it was a roof over my head.
You threw the $1,000 down, and he gave you the keys.
Yeah, well, you know, in a short way, yeah. Well, my intentions was to basically live there, play my drums, and open up my art studio and set up my art table and go into basically do business right there on Park Street. And literally the moment the guy saw me, he was all like, okay, I'll rent to you, but, and he gave me this long list of things that you cannot have or cannot do. You cannot spend the night here. You cannot have an animal here. Da 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 da. I'm like, okay, sure, whatever you say, pal, sir. I signed on the dotted line. I said I would. First thing I do is move in, make a place up in the loft area to sleep. I bring my dog, my black lab, to live there and everything. And the first time the guy ever comes to my place to come check on me, he happens to be like one of the chiefs of police for the local Alameda police, and he had his uniform on and everything. Shit. And I just said, I'm not going to do. I mean, I was smoking weed, getting high, playing drums, living there, sleeping there, and I had my dog there too. So I was there for 4 years. And
wow.
Sometimes you just got to take a chance and kind of go for it. But
that was the 90s.
That was early 2000, right around 99, 2000. Okay. Which is so weird. Remember when the year 2000 was the future?
Yeah.
Now it's like
and 2012
way
was
back
the end.
in 2000.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was around then, and it was a great experience. I love that part of. I just love Northern California. I love the Bay Area.
Yeah.
And I at least can say I got to at least kind of live my dream a little bit and be where I wanted to be.
Yeah, and you were there. When did you first get up there to play music? Because weren't you there with that whole metal, punk, pop, or funk sound that was happening?
I started playing. Well, I was playing in Orange County prior to that in Southern California, and that's my vibe. Yeah. I like my favorite bands are Fishbone and Bad Brains. Yeah. Back then, there were bands like Faith No More. Bands that were combining hard rock, heavy metal, punk, and funk.
Right.
A little bit of ska, reggae, a lot of variety. And that was my vibe. And I was really trying to do that in Orange County, Southern California. And that was the time when all the they call it hair metal.
Yeah.
The Sunset Strip. And I was playing some of those clubs too, but it wasn't my scene. It wasn't my vibe. The bands I was big fans of were like Metallica and Primus.
Yeah.
Faith No More. And they were all from the Bay Area.
Yeah.
And that's where the Grateful Dead's from, and Santana. And there was that whole history of, Janis Joplin and the 60s and Jefferson Airplane and the peace and freedom and peace and love. And it just seemed like it was like, maybe I should go up there, And I would visit there off and on for a few years. And I'm like, what do I keep visiting here? I'm just going to live here. So eventually I did move to the Bay Area. And yeah, there's a lot of that up there. It was a very eclectic scene. I guess that's the best word people use to describe it. There's a lot of variety. It wasn't so much like Los Angeles and Southern California it was just like everybody just wanted to be the next MTV band.
Right.
And up in the Bay Area was definitely more, it still is, creative,
freestyle,
free,
yeah.
not confined or
Experimental.
trying to be like everybody else that's on the scene. So I was, and again, I was there for probably 20 years before I came to Vegas. I did not want to leave there.
Yeah.
I left there kicking and screaming and said I would never move to Vegas. Am I allowed to cuss?
Yeah.
If you would have asked me prior to moving to Vegas, which I'm in Vegas now, if I would ever move to Vegas, my exact words every single time were, "Fuck no, I'm not moving to Vegas." And now I've been in Vegas for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah.
So,
it's funny.
Careful what you say. All the things
exactly.
all the things I've been talking about, it's like, it's all about taking chances, kind of just, sometimes you just got to tell yourself, maybe you just rethink that,
Yeah.
give it a shot. So it's all fun, man. And now I love Vegas. It's my home. Even though I was in California for many years, I'm officially I don't know what you call it. What do you call it?
Vegan?
I'm not a vegan. I like barbecue ribs.
No, a lost vegan.
I'm a lost vegan.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same. I feel the same way. I love Vegas, but I was a never, not in a fucking million years.
No.
And yeah. And
to me, Vegas meant at the time basically throwing in the towel, deciding I would just
burnout.
I would just play drums in lounges and casinos for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Become an alcoholic and gamble on the strip and marry a showgirl and call it. Yeah. No.
So yeah, it did turn out that way. Actually, Vegas again. Well, I guess everybody knows now, but I wouldn't have said anything when I first moved here because it was like I didn't want anybody to come here.
Yeah.
But ever since
I still don't.
ever since the pandemic started, apparently a lot of Californians hightailed it, and now they're in Vegas.
Now we can't buy homes.
I'm waiting for summer to come so they can leave.
Right, exactly. Thins them out quick. Yeah.
It gets really hot. You're gonna hate it. I promise you.
Yeah, I tell people that's exactly what I tell people when they ask me how I like it here. Like, you'd hate it.
You'll hate it.
Super
you don't
hot.
want to come
You
to
don't
Vegas.
want to come here.
Oh, just come here, go to the strip, spend some money, leave.
Yeah. That's pretty much what.
No, but the truth is, I love it as an artist and a musician. When I say that, it's like a lot of things changed too when I first moved to Vegas. For example, I was afraid that if I moved to Vegas, I was going to end up in prison because I had weed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I couldn't imagine. I mean, that was the beautiful part of the Bay Area. That's where all the cannabis clubs and all
smoke
that
on the streets for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, that's where it all really kind of started in the West Coast. Berkeley and Oaksterdam,
AIDS and cancer patients.
it was all right
started with
right there in the Bay Area, and that's what brought me to the Bay. So when I first moved here, the laws were.
They had a death penalty at one time.
I mean, they're saying they're going to take your car, put you in prison.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, there's a sign when you drive into Vegas saying, "This is a zero tolerance state." In other words, we don't fuck around.
Yeah.
If you fuck around, we're going to fuck with you.
You're going to find out.
You're going to find out. So I'm like, oh, what am I doing? And literally within a year or two, now all of that time, 10 years ago, now there's a cannabis dispensary, literally on every corner. Yeah. Thank you. So thank goodness. So
we can manifest pretty well.
So I think we brought it with us. And I like to feel that way too, because when I first moved to Vegas, there was a vibe when I first started meeting people like, well, they do things this way here. In other words, this is how it is here in Vegas, and musicians have to do this and play here, and this is what you got to wear and who you got to talk to and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, fuck that. I just came here from Oakland and I'm just going to see what happens.
Yeah.
And like you said, when I say we, some of the people who did, and a lot of Las Vegas probably hate me for this because, we did kind of help kind of change it a little bit. But when I first moved here, I saw there was the First Fridays art festivals on the weekend. So that had a Berkeley vibe.
Yeah.
Now cannabis is legal, and
the art pop-up scene is huge here. You got a lot of them all over the place. So you got little scenes happening, and the music is fantastic. Yeah, you got small bands can come here and play at a lot of different places. It really is
the entertainment capital.
Yeah. I do. Well, speaking of entertainment, let's get back to your Pog story when the early 90s and you're about to cash in.
Okay, so here's the story about Pogs. Now, I'm only telling you this story because you asked. I did not walk into the door tonight thinking I'd be talking about
This is one of your highlighted stories of your time.
Yeah. I think I'd be wasting my time on this really important interview, life-changing, altering interviews to talk about.
We'll get to politics later, but let's cover pogs.
Politics and pogs, great. not sex, drugs, and rock and roll,
Not
what everybody
anymore.
really wants to hear about. Anyway, so I'll tell you the pog story. Now, really, when I bring up the pog story and when I talk about the pog story, this is more a story about how many times in life, if you're lucky, you get that big break, that life-altering, changing big break that makes or breaks you. It could basically put you on a trajectory for success and money and all the great things you've ever hoped and dreamed for and worked for. Or it could come crashing down and you feel like your hopes and dreams are destroyed. So the pog story is about, oh gosh, we're going to have to go on my time machine. Wayne's World. Back in around 1993, 94 or so, I was doing a comic book convention. When I say I was doing, when I had my art table and I was showing off my art, as you can see my art here. And of course my coloring book, the StonerDude coloring book that now you can buy at stonerdudeart.com, published by Avantpop Books. So I had an art table here in Vegas, ironically, and I was hanging out, doing my thing, trying to make some money, doing some artwork, drawing Spider-Man and Wolverine for kids and things like that. And there were some kids in the corner, little kids, probably 8, 10, 9 years old, playing with these little white circles. They're made out of cardboard, and they were blank. They had nothing on them. And I'm like, what are these kids doing? And they were obsessed with it. It wasn't like it was a big deal. Like, they were really into it. They were having tournaments. I'm like, what is going on here? I'm trying to sell my artwork, I'm trying to pay to get back home to California at the time. These kids aren't spending their money. They're buying these little pogs. They told me it's called pogs. It's this new thing. I'm like, oh, that's really stupid. And I was I was a dick about it. I'm like, this is dumb.
Yeah.
You're playing with little caps and throwing them on the ground, and why? But they were into it. They loved it, man. And so I go home. I'm like, this was the dumbest thing I just saw. Some new game out of Hawaii called Pogs. And I get back home. A few months later, I do another comic book convention, and some guy comes up to me at the end of the day and goes, hey, have you ever thought about having your art on Pogs? And I'm like, no, that's stupid. That's really dumb. Why would I do that? I'm an artist. How dare you?
Toy manufacturer.
Yeah, how dare you? Anyways, so he gave me his number. He's like, we can make money. I'm like, oh, really? And all of a sudden, my tunes changed, right?
Of course.
We can make some money. And anyway, so I got together with this dude, talked to him about it. He told me we could make some money, asked me to draw a few images, and I did all that. And I drew these little monsters. I called them Maysonet monsters at the time. Anyways, I drew these little cool monsters, a werewolf and a Dracula-looking vampire thing and like a mummy. Anyway, so I drew these things, and he put them on these pogs. And now all of a sudden, my art, after I'm making fun of this game, now all of a sudden my artwork is on pogs, and he's printing them up. And now all of a sudden he gets distributors, and now they're in Toys R Us, which is like a big deal, by the way.
Yeah.
They don't have Toys R Us anymore. When we were kids, that was like
if you get in there, that's the marketing dream.
That is the dream of all places to go. That's like the fantasy. That's like heaven for a little kid, Toys R Us. So I see my pogs on Toys R Us. I even kept the receipt because it said Toys R Us. They were in Walmart and some of the other stores. Now things are moving along, and I'm making a little bit of money. And now at this time, I made my first royalty check. And I don't know how much anybody knows about royalties, but when I got this little $300 check, I thought I was Paul McCartney getting checks from the Beatles music, I mean, I'm like, this is no wonder. This is the key.
Yeah.
Right here. Make money off of something you did a long time ago and just keep getting checks in the mail.
The dream.
What a way to live,
Yeah.
right? So I got my $300 and I'm cashing my check. I'm thinking about the future. I'm like maybe 20, 26, 27. I forgot how old I was, 24. And then I got the opportunity because of that. we were approached by some millionaire guy, Mr. Big, the guy that signs the big checks,
Right.
and he wants to make a board game out of pogs. Now, maybe back up your rewind. I was saying how stupid this was a year or two prior, and now all of a sudden, this guy's Mr. Big with the check is telling me, "Hey, let's make some real money. Let's make a game board, a board game, and go and put it in stores all over the country." He already had the the distribution. He had all that set up because he already had other things in stores. It was a given.
Yeah.
It was a done deal. I'm like already going, oh my God, I'm seeing numbers.
Yeah. What am I going to buy
hit the lottery,
first?
right? And so we went through the process, research and development, made the board game. I did the artwork for the actual board, the game itself. And I did the artwork that was inside the game that went with the instructions and all that stuff. I did the artwork for the pogs. And I actually even have somewhere in my box of things that don't matter anymore at home. I actually have this board game somewhere that I saved. And I was like so stoked. So now these board games are done. They're printed. They're ready to ship. They're on pallets in warehouses, wrapped up, ready to ship to all these stores, Target, Walmart, everywhere else. Literally, like the week that they were supposed to ship, and I already had my royalty check spent in my head what I was going to go do with all this money. The whole pog industry. Go look it up online, kids. The pogs. Anyways, the whole industry overnight, over fucking night, literally just, you got bomb sound.
Yeah.
Explosion. And that was it. That was the pog wave. It was like this big wave, and it just ended overnight. And ultimately, all the stores that pre-ordered these games said, "Nah, it's okay.
We'll pass.
We'll pass. Yeah. We're not gonna do that.
We're pulling them from the shelf.
Yeah, we're not. They didn't even make it to the shelf. They're just about to go to the shelf. They're like, no, we don't want to put you on the shelf. So that's my claim to fame or big money. Just and as an artist and musician,
close.
You're always waiting for that big thing to happen. Yeah, missed it by that much. Yeah. That's an old Get Smart reference, by the way. I don't know if you ever watched Get Smart, the TV show Get Smart. Missed it by that much.
Yeah.
So that's the story of my life. And it's happened many times since then, by the way. Little things. I got lots of stories of how I almost made it.
Well, I mean, you've done, art-wise, you've done T-shirts, album covers. I mean, what all?
I'd say
rock
probably
posters.
The coolest job that I did. Again, I always look at that's not a failure. I think it's just a close one. Yeah. But I've got lots of cool things that I'm very proud of and happy that I did do, and thankful for the opportunities. I think one of the many coolest jobs I ever got to do was design a couple of T-shirts for the band Pantera, and that was in around the same time, 99. Well, a little bit later, 99, 2000, 2001. I was living in the Bay Area, and that's where the company Winterland Productions. Do you know who? Have you ever heard of Winterland Productions? No. That's surprising to me. Anybody out there in the world that's listening right now, if you're a fan of music, rock and roll, and concerts, and merchandise, T-shirts, the shirts that you get at the concerts, well, a guy named Bill Graham Presents is a great book if you ever get to read it. Probably, you have it in your store, by the way?
We don't.
No. You don't have Bill Graham Presents?
We don't.
It was like a Bible to me.
Oh,
Bill Graham is like the greatest. He's like the forefather of concerts and rock promotion. Very, very prominent name. Bill Graham Presents was he had the what's the big place? The Fillmore. The Fillmore. Winterland, those were his places back in the day. They're still around, but anyways, all that's kind of now gone because of what Live Nation and all that other bullshit.
Yeah.
So anyways, Bill Graham started Winterland Productions, and he's one of the early guys that, like, he signed guys like the Grateful Dead and Santana.
Yeah.
And he's like, he saw the people out there to come see the shows. He's like, I need to sell them shit. And he basically came up with, T-shirts and all that. So eventually he built a big empire. And he started making his company, anyways, Winterland Productions, made T-shirts for everybody, from Britney Spears to Slayer and everything in between. And I had the opportunity to go to their warehouse because I was doing a job for a small mom and pop shop called Wizard Brewery. I drew a wizard for their T-shirt. It was a one-color T-shirt, white on black, very simple. And I had the opportunity to take a tour of the building of Winterland Productions, where all these T-shirts were made. And again, that was like a Disneyland for someone like me, music, rock and roll, artwork. And I get into, we finally made it to a big round table with the head of the art department there, working on our little projects. And I went along, and like I usually do, I sneak in my artwork, right? I bring in my portfolio, and I find a moment in the conversation where the artwork was brought up, and I'm like, I'm the artist. And I plopped my portfolio on the table. And the art department director of Winterland Productions started looking at my portfolio. And he's flipping through it. I'm kind of reenacting it here with the video screen. He's looking at my portfolio while they're talking. He's like, kind of quietly, Let's say that once in a while. Then he said, have you ever submitted anything to our heavy metal division? And I went, what is that? I don't know what that is, but that's like the coolest thing I ever imagined. You got a heavy metal division? Yeah, it's a part of our art department. They deal with like Iron Maiden and all these other heavy metal bands. And he goes, we're looking for a couple designs for Pantera. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. And I'm like shaking, I'm like, I can't believe this guy just asked me if I've ever been in their heavy metal division. And I said, okay, cool. And he goes, okay, I want you to draw a Cowboy from Hell. Pantera has a very famous song called Cowboys from Hell. It's one of their albums, Cowboys from Hell. And I'm like, and by then they were already, they're huge, worldwide. Everybody knows who Pantera is. And so anyways, I went home and I started sketching around. And I wasn't really sure at the time of how real this was. Right. I'm like, really? Am I going to do a design for Pantera? And the guy gave me his number and everything. And he goes, yeah, I want you to draw something. I go, okay. Well, a couple few days went by, and I called the number to check in with him. And he said, I told you to draw something. I go, okay. Like he said, yeah. I was playing that dance of like, what do you want me to do? He's like, I told you to draw a Cowboy from Hell. Yeah. Okay, you got it. He goes, I want it by like Monday. And it was like a Thursday or something. Okay, yes, sir. Click. Oh, fuck. I got a fucking opportunity to do this, and I got to do this now. And I literally stayed up for 3.5 days and came up with something. I don't know if you can get on the screen or if you want to go to my go to Instagram, StonerDude Art at Instagram if you want to see any of my stuff. StonerDude Art on Instagram and StonerDudeArt.com. You could see my Cowboy from Hell. So anyways, I did it. I stayed up for 3 days. I was nervous. I painted like a maniac till my hands fell off and my eyes were going to pop out. And sure enough, I delivered. And I got my first check from Pantera. And that helped me get that, like I said, that warehouse, the storefront I was telling you about. So that was a great job. Yeah. I'm thankful that happened. And to this day, years later, I think one of the most coolest honors I feel as an artist is when I go to a concert, and I go to concerts all the time, and I'll see some kid, some dirtbag kid like me, wearing his old beat up, faded Pantera t-shirt that I designed, and it's like worn out. Yeah. And I'm like, that's cool. That's like the I take that kind of shit to the grave. Like I did something, you know, I got to do something cool. So anyways, yeah, that's my Pantera story.
Do you ever look on eBay to see if you can find any of these old things?
Yes, I have. As a matter of fact, people do sell some of the old T-shirts that I did on eBay.
Yeah.
I even bought one a long time ago just to make sure I had one.
Yeah. Well, speaking of music, you play drums for missing persons, and if I remember correctly, you had a story where you got left in Florida.
Oh, yeah. Now you got no. It wasn't Florida.
Oh, was it Florida?
It was Boston.
Boston. I mean, I know you love the gig. So
okay. That's a good. I guess not. Well, that story could take a long time because it's a long story. I'm a drummer. Been playing drums since I was a kid. I love music. I love all styles of music, and ever since I was very young, I was a fan of Frank Zappa. And I remember, as a matter of fact, first time I saw Frank Zappa on Saturday Night Live in like 1976 or somewhere around there. And I noticed I was just kind of starting to play drums, or at least starting to kind of, like, in my mind as a kid, go, I think I could do that. I think that's kind of what kids do, right? Yeah. They go, I could do that. And they kind of go for it. And I saw Frank Zappa on Saturday Night Live, and what caught my eye more than anything that night was the drummer Terry Bozzio. And he was at the time he was very young, and he was just in your face in the camera, and he was playing drums like a monster. If you ever have a chance, go check it out on YouTube. Frank Zappa, Terry Bozzio, Saturday Night Live, I think 1976. Anyways, I saw that as a little kid, and late at night, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy's awesome. I don't know who he is, but he's, he was like Keith Moon, but younger and more awesome. Keith Moon was loose and crazy. He was all that, but more serious. Like he was he was just more technically proficient, and just more in command. And he lasted a lot longer, obviously. But anyways, so I followed Terry Bozzio, his career since very young. I started collecting Frank Zappa albums, and then the band Missing Persons came out when their first album came out, Spring Session M, in 1982, I think.
And they were part of Mother of Inventions, right? Frank Zappa's Mother of Inventions.
Frank Zappa fired his band, the young kids in the band, Terry Bozzio, at the time Del Bozzio, and the guitar player Warren Cucurullo, and Patrick O'Hearn, the bass player, and said, "You guys are fired." And it wasn't because they weren't good; they were great. That was probably one of the greatest bands that Frank Zappa ever had. But he's like, Frank Zappa always just changed the musicians. He would build up this great band and then fire everybody and start all over all the time. It was just his thing, and he did it so they would go out and find their own way. Right. He's like, you did as much as you're going to do with me.
Go kick him out of the nest.
Yeah, he kicked him out of the nest, exactly, and that's how Missing Persons was started. So I followed them since their first album. I would hear them every day on the way to school. I would listen to it over and over. I'd play along to the album as a kid, and years and years would go by. Think about all the time we spent as years go by. You almost forget about certain bands or certain songs or whatever, and all of a sudden you hear them, and then you're like, "Oh my God, I love that!" Still to this day. So fast forward years. Oh, I'll even throw this little tidbit in there. There was a time I even considered putting together a Missing Persons tribute band.
Wow!
Just so that I could play the Terry Bozzio parts, and I loved the songs. And I was always a big fan of Del Bozzio, the singer. So fast forward many years to 2009, and one of my close friends here, who lives here in Vegas, he plays for the show called Raiding the Rock Vault. That's over here at the Hard Rock. He's a keyboard player. He got the gig to play in Missing Persons, and he's played with a lot of great players and stuff. And it wasn't even like a big deal to him. It was like a little side gig. He didn't even care. He didn't even know who Missing Persons was,
right.
And he didn't even tell me that he was playing with them. I had to find out, like on MySpace or whatever it was back then. And I find out, I go, "Dude, you're going to be in San Francisco tonight playing with Missing Persons?" He's like, "Oh yeah, dude, I don't know. I just joined them, and I don't know." And I'm going to be there. He wasn't making a big deal out of it. And I'm like, dude, that's like, I can't even tell you. I just told you my history. So it was a big deal to me.
Yeah.
So I go, can you get me on the list? And he got me on the list, and I went to the show, and it was at the Red Devil Lounge in San Francisco. And I went to the show, and I had every intention I was gonna go there and take the gig. Like, in other words, like I should be on that stage. That should be me. Now, the drummer was the guy that they had at the time. Great, he was a great drummer, and the band was really good. But still, I had this like mission.
Yeah.
Just like I did
Destiny.
with
a coloring book.
Just with everything
manifest
else, everything
shit
I
all day
manifested
long.
it. So yeah, and I go there. I meet Dale Bozio, the singer. She's a stoner. We got stoned in the back, the little green room there, and started just kind of hanging out. And I helped them on stage. I helped them set their shit up and tear it down, just because I do that naturally. When I'm around a stage, I just like to do things, you know. I if I'm not playing, I like to do something. I'll move the mic stand or do a check or whatever, hit a drum. So anyways, at the end of the night, I see Dale out on the corner arguing with the drummer, like a little spat about the money or something. I don't know, you know, after a show kind of thing. And I'm listening to this, like I'm listening kind of like around a corner, like I'm around the corner, but I'm right by them. You know, I'm like, I was eavesdropping. I totally was eavesdropping. Call it. I'm like, oh, this is kind of interesting. And it's the moment I thought that, my friend, keyboard player Michael Ross, he comes around the other corner. He looks at me, he goes, "Hey, dude, you should play with this band." And it was like all the stars, literally. Yeah. So from that point on, it didn't happen immediately, but eventually I did manifest it to where I at least got that opportunity to play with the band. And from that point on, there was a good 5 years straight where I was not only playing drums, but also managing, helping, making sure things were good on the road for the band. Everybody got paid.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, it was exactly. Yeah, you just nailed it. Yeah. Matter of fact, those were words Dale Bozio said to me one time.
Really?
She said that because I told her some of my stories too. She goes, "Careful what you wish for." And I'm not in the band full time anymore. But I still I just did a show with her last December. Yeah. So I get a call once in a while. You know, I've been out of the band for a few years, but I'm still close friends with Dale, and she still calls me when she needs somebody to sub for a gig, and I'm always more than happy to do it. I don't even have to practice with the band. I just
that's how you learn.
I know the set, I know the songs, and so yeah, that's for me. It's definitely with the Pantera thing on my list of.
That's pretty fucking cool.
Achievements, I guess, you know, that I'm definitely, and again, I'm thankful for all these things too. It's like, none of these things happen because, they just drop out of the sky. The weird universal opportunities they kind of linger there. You have to kind of see it and just kind of imagine how you fit into it. And then just try to be at the right place at the right time. And say the right thing, do the right thing, and be ready for the ride when it does happen. So when I talked about, so I played with her for almost 7 years. When you go back to the being dumped in
Dale dumping you,
my very first tour with Missing Persons, I got on a bus. Wow, these are good stories because, again, they show you how like one day you really think you're a rock star and you're going to be rich. Or as an artist, you know, all these things, great things are going to happen, and, you know, and that's not the way it works. You're lucky just to even be in the conversation. But so yeah, the first tour I did, I got on I took a. Here's how stupid I am, or here's how eager I am, but how stupid I am. I had to get my drums to Chicago, my drum set. Obviously, I couldn't get them there any way, like ship them. Would cost a lot of money. To do them any other way would just be a lot of money. So the only way I could get my drums to Chicago was for free, was to get them on the train, Amtrak somehow, and box them up as if they were clothes, because they just, I don't know how they do it now, but they weigh they weigh the package, and if it's under a certain amount, it's free.
Yeah.
You're allowed like 4 free items. So I think it was like 50 pounds each, and I somehow managed to break my drum set down into boxes and tape them all up. I said they were closed, and I got them somewhere around the 50-pound mark, and I got them all on a train. So I got big boxes with all my drums.
That's great.
And I get a train ticket, and I go to Chicago to meet the band. That's where everybody landed to get on the tour bus.
Right.
And I got to Chicago. It took 2.5 days on a train with all my shit. That was crazy. I don't know if I do that again, but I did it. I got to see the country on a train. I got to Chicago. This dude picks me up, rolls a big fat joint for me. I'm all happy. I made it to Chicago. He takes me to the hotel where the tour bus was out in front of the hotel, and we're pulling up, and there's the tour bus. I'm like, yeah, I made it. There's my tour bus. And I get to the tour bus, and I'm the first one out of the band. They're flying in. They just got a guitar on their back.
Yeah.
They don't have to bring a whole drum set.
4 boxes of clothes.
Yeah, they got a backpack and a guitar. I've got giant boxes. I need 2 people to help me move. So I get to the hotel. I get to the tour bus. It's this grand view. Oh my God, I'm going to be on a tour bus and go all over the East Coast and play these shows. And anyway, so the whole band shows up. We get on the bus. We do the shows. That was a fucking roller coaster. But that, again, I don't want to spend the whole night talking about just this, but the whole to the top and the bottom thing. I'm texting my brother. It's all part of my rock and roll fantasy, the lyric.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's like, wow, dude, I'm proud of you. All these things. And I was just so stoked. I did some shows. We played New York and parts of New York and Pittsburgh and Boston. We ended up in Boston after about 6 shows. And there was a problem with the money in the tour bus. Apparently things weren't getting paid for. And ultimately, we did a show in somewhere outside of Boston, Massachusetts. I forgot the name of the town. And we got paid. We were still behind at the time. We didn't have our full pay as a band. And at the end of the night, we go back to the bus. We still got 4 nights to do, and Dale's gone. And the band was like, "What do you mean Dale's gone? She's gone. What do you mean Dale's gone? She's gone. She's not here.
No longer here."
Yeah, she's not here. She's gone. And everybody freaked, and that's how that. Now,
well, what'd you guys do? You had the tour bus with all your shit, and the tour bus isn't
a
getting
good question,
paid. I mean,
Shwa, 'cause I'm going to tell you that one now. What do you do when you're a band and you're 3,000 miles from home or whatever?
Your stars abandoned you,
and the lead singer, who is the band, took off because there was a problem with the money. Well, this is a whole other weird thing. The person that was opening up for us on that tour was Tommy Two-Tone. You remember Tommy Two-Tone?
Vaguely.
Jenny, 8675309.
Yeah.
Go look it up. Go Google it, kids.
Oh, don't.
Yeah. Well, that was a very popular song back in the early 80s too. Jenny. Tommy Two-Tone, 8675309. It's a very famous one-hit. He's probably one of the great one-hit wonders of all time.
Yeah.
So Tommy Two-Tone, prior to this, about a couple nights into this whole little tour, asked me to play drums on one of his songs because he just had this little small acoustic set up, and he was dying out there in front of people. They didn't know his other songs, and they were all waiting for Jenny.
Right.
He was trying to do it as a solo act, and it was very bad. It was very bad. It was sad, actually.
Yeah.
Well, one night, just because I was standing right there and I was excited just to watch all this happen, as he was about to play the song Jenny, I didn't even know him at the time. He looks at me, directly at me from the stage, and he goes, the camera can do this. He's got his guitar and he goes, looks at me, he like nods, right?
To the kit?
To the kit, exactly. Yeah. And I'm like, me? He's like,
save me.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It was save me. I'm like, Tommy Two Tone's asking me to save him. No way. So I'm like, okay, I've only played it in a bar 5 billion times.
Right, yeah.
I know the fucking song, sure. And so I get up behind the drums. Now I'm playing Jenny Jenny with Tommy Two Tone. And now girls are getting up and dancing and having a good time. And I'm like, okay, cool. And that was that, right? I didn't even like talk to him afterwards at that point. And I go back to the tour bus, and the rest of the band's looking at me like, not Dale, the guitar player and the bass player. They looked at me like with this real pissy look on their face. And I just met these guys.
Right.
I hadn't even played with them yet at the time.
Oh.
They're like, dude, what are you doing? You don't go out and play with the opening band and show up like there's some unwritten law.
Right.
I'm like, what are you talking about? They were really fucking upset.
Wow.
I'm like worried I'm going to lose this gig now because I went and played fucking
right.
Jenny.
You just saved some guy.
I just saved him, yeah. If anything, I thought I did good.
Right, it's the opening band.
I thought I was doing a good thing, right? I was being a soldier, just helping out. They were pissed at me.
Wow.
And that just made the whole vibe.
Of course. Uncomfortable.
Shitty after the, yeah. So I told them I wouldn't do it again. I wanted just to play.
You're just a kid. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I played Jenny Jenny with Tommy Two Tone. I'll never do it again. So I go do some shows. A few nights later, I'm in the middle of Boston. It was a couple days. It was a couple days before this whole thing. I told you I got left in Boston. I'm in Boston with my friend Mike, keyboard player Mike Ross. We're in the middle of downtown Boston, and his phone rings. He has a cell phone. It's Tommy Two Tone. Apparently they exchanged numbers. He goes, "Where are you guys at?" I'm like, we're at a little sports bar in Boston. I'll meet you there. We'll have dinner. Okay, sure, cool. Tommy Two Tone finds us in the middle of downtown Boston. Now we're hanging out, driving around, going to bars, and it was our one night off kind of thing.
Right.
And this is one of the great moments in my mind. It's fun sharing a little bit because after all this stuff happened with the band, and I swore to God I would never play to these guys. I wouldn't play with them anymore. He's sitting with a few beers and I'm going, "What's it gonna take for you to play drums with me on the rest of this tour?" Wait, do it the way let me try to do it the way he did. All right. He slaps his knee. "What's it gonna take for you to play drums with me the rest of these shows?" I got fucking Tommy Two Tone drunk, asking me, Tommy's willing to pay me.
Yeah.
Already not making hardly any money. And I go, "Tommy, man, this is I've played so many jam nights and I've played with so many musicians in my life that, I've played with homeless people walking off the street with 3 strings on their guitar to jam. I played with everybody.
Yeah.
I don't turn people. I love music and I never discourage it, and I always try to encourage it, and I always try to make it better.
Yeah.
For everybody. So to have to tell him, "Dude, I'm sorry, man, I can't play with you." That was, it hurts even now. It sounds stupid, right? He goes, "Come on, man." He just kept trying to talk me into it. I had to literally he had a few beers in him. I couldn't shut him up. And I'm like, "Dude, this is the hardest thing in the world, but I cannot play with you." Okay. He gets all kind of upset. He wouldn't let it go. But he finally did. He goes, "Okay, I understand. I'm not gonna blow your trip just because, I need a drummer." And so that was that. I had to put him in his place. And I swear to God, this is not an exaggeration. I'm not making this up. At the exact time all this is going on, there's a little 3-piece cover band at that bar, and they were playing fucking Jenny Jenny.
No fucking way.
I swear to God, this was weird.
That is
Twilight Zone.
That is
shit.
some weird zones.
So, fast forward back to when Dale's gone, and we're on the tour bus, and we've got 4 shows left, and no Dale. Out of all the people on the bus, Tommy Two Tone said, "How about You guys play for me. We do the shows. We make up some story and calm the promoters down. Bullshit our way through this, and we'll at least make some money, and we'll get home. I'm like, that sounds like a great idea. The rest of the band said, fuck no. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm like, oh, you guys got to be kidding me. No, it's like 2 a.m. We're in front of the bus driver is in the hotel sleeping.
Right.
He's getting ready just to drop us off and go home.
Yeah.
That's what his boss is telling him to do. The band is saying no. I'm like, well, you guys are professional musicians, man. We have a way to get home. We can salvage this.
Right.
We have this is a nightmare, and we can do this. And come on, guys. We can do it. I was trying to be positive. And even Tommy Two-Tone was like, yeah, we could do this. They're like, no. Now all of a sudden they're all on their cell phones at the middle of the night, trying to bail themselves out and try to get a ride or a flight or whatever. And no kid, nothing happened. Now everybody's just pissed.
Right.
Oh, the bus driver wakes up, gets in the bus, and now the plan is just to drop us off at the next town. And who knows what was going to happen? It wasn't his problem.
Right.
So I go to my little, if you've been a tour bus or a bus, you basically sleep in like a little coffin.
Yeah.
It's like a little bunk
Shelf.
I go to my shelf. I go to my coffin. I'm defeated. I did everything I could do to try to talk these guys.
Couldn't rally.
I tried to rally the troops, and they told me to fuck off. And I was depressed and sad and disappointed, and now I'm just tired. I just want a couple hours of sleep now so I could worry about it while I'm at some bus stop in the middle of fucking nowhere. So we get on the bus, we start driving, and I get about an hour of sleep or so, and then the sun's just barely coming up. The glow of sunlight kind of coming in through the windows and the little curtain on your little coffin, the back of a bus. And in the back room of the bus, I heard the bass player and the keyboard player messing around with Tommy Two-Tone trying to learn his songs. And I'll try to reenact this. I'm like this, depressed and sad, and I just smiled a little bit. And I'm like, oh my God, I think we're going to do it. And to make that a longer story short, we did it. We got home. We made them enough money. We bullshitted of course the promoters are pissed.
Right. Where's Dell?
Missing Persons canceled.
Yeah, that's the headliner.
Well, you got Tommy Two-Tone. You got Sick
You got one song we're going to play for 2 hours.
Yeah. We learned a bunch of songs. I think I even sang. We even played a covers. I sang a few. I didn't care. I just, whatever it takes, man, get me home.
Yeah.
And that was all said and done. We earned enough money. We end up in Washington, D.C. It was my first time ever going there. I've just never been there since. I've only seen it from the back of a tour bus, the Washington Monument, and they dropped me off at the train station, Amtrak, at Washington, D.C. Now, here's another part of the story. Prior, when I was at Oakland Amtrak, you could have put a nuclear bomb on that fucking train. They didn't check you for shit. They didn't check you for nothing. They didn't scan anything. You just got on the train and left.
Loaded up, yeah.
So I thought that was, I just go, oh, that's the way they do it, right? We get to Washington, D.C., and now it's time, they're going to dump me off. They're flying. I got to get my drums home. So I got to go back the way I came on a train. Everybody gave me their weed. That they accumulated on the road. Yeah. I'm like, give it to me, man. I'll smoke it on the way home. I'll just take it on the train. They don't check for shit. Yeah. And so everybody gave me their weed. Tommy fucking Two-Tone gave me an extra $50. He goes, hey, dude, make sure you eat. He's such a good guy. I love that fucking dude. And I get on the train. I go to the train station. I check all my shit in. There's fucking police dogs everywhere, right? At the Amtrak station. And I've got a pocket full of everybody's weed. And I'm like, oh, fuck. So I had to find a way to get rid of the weed. And it was the whole thing. And I did. But I was scared. I was scared shitless. I'm like, fuck, man. I'm in Washington, D.C. This is post 9/11, Right. But so the happy part of that story is I made it home. Yeah. And Tommy Two Tone even called me to do some shows after that.
Wow.
Since then, and I made a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. So God bless Tommy Two Tone.
That's great. That is great. That has a good ending. And you still work with Dale
And,
from time to time.
Oh, yeah. Now you would think, right? You would think after an experience like that, you would never, ever, ever pick up the phone again if Dale Bozio calls you, right?
Yeah.
You go, fuck. Most other people would anyways. They go, fuck. But you know what, man? I had such an amazing experience. I didn't harbor that type of resentment.
And you were such a big fan, and the inspiration to even play drums.
But still, you would think because she fucked me in the worst way.
Well, yeah,
fool me once, fool me twice. You know that old saying. Nope. Sure enough, she called me again down the road, and I said, "Sure, I'll do it." and then I ended up being, like I said, the full-time drummer for 5 years almost. So. No regrets. No, and again, I got friends. I have made friends over the years, and memories and experiences. So, the thing about it, kids out there, when you want to rock and roll, and you want to be an artist, and you want to go live your free, spirited life and do your thing, you gotta always pretty much just take chances and look at it like an adventure and just go for it.
Yeah.
And sometimes things will be crazy and fucked, and sometimes they'll be awesome and memorable. And I tell a lot of younger people now. I'm an old guy now, so because I play music for a living, I'm always around a lot of people half my age. You can't control all the things that happen. You can surely do your best to try to manifest or do the right thing along the way, but ultimately it's kind of how you manage it. When something comes at you and it's hard and it's a hard obstacle or it's a challenge, it's really kind of how you manage. You bob and weave, you move around, you kind of absorb the hit, you learn from it, you don't panic, you don't freak out over it. You just kind of go, well, this is kind of what if I'm going to live my hopes and dreams, I'm not going to sit there and complain and worry when things don't exactly go right along the way. You got to literally even enjoy it, embrace it.
Yeah.
God, Mike Tyson said something recently. I love Mike Tyson. I love all the greats, but said something about you got to do it even when it's something you hate. That's what the discipline defines people, that because they're willing to do something that they hate and do it like they love it. And so no matter what, they're going to get through it, because you're going to get those moments where you really are loving it and it really is the best of times. And that's what you're living for, right?
Exactly.
That's
cherish those moments.
That's the cherry on top.
Yeah. Well, that's good advice. That's good advice. And now you've got a few bands here in town too, right? Let's see. You've got Bong. You play with your girlfriend Abby and her band.
I'll tell you. Okay, I'll go through the list.
Yeah, go through the list.
When I first moved to Vegas, I was probably in about 13 bands. I was playing a lot more. I was playing in every band that would ask me to play. And I still do to some degree. I still love to play. I just kind of, since the pandemic, and I keep saying pandemic because it was all planned. Am I going to get you fired from your...
I think I know the boss. So.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They got to come get you.
Yeah.
So anyways, I'm a little upset, but I'll let it go for now. Anyways, ever since things started coming back over this past year, to back, even though I liked my old normal, by the way, but this is, I was always ready to come back to whatever old normal I could find. But I think, like a lot of people, when things shut down, we did have a lot of time to say, okay, so if things go back to any kind of normal, am I going to do exactly what I did before? And the answer is no. So I kind of pick and choose my bands, my musical projects a little bit more. And I say that with I feel calm about it. It calms my soul to know that, I'm probably not making every dime I could get or every dollar I could get, but I'm certainly really enjoying the aspect of being an artist and being creative. So I narrowed down my bands. I play in my band Bong. As you mentioned, Bong, it's been my labor of love probably since the mid-90s. And I've recorded a lot of songs. A lot of music. It's primarily with me and my brother, my actual brother, Andrew, and which is kind of weird being in a band with my brother. We didn't grow up that way. It just kind of happened when we were in our 30s, you know.
Yeah.
So it kind of like a full circle thing.
That's cool.
But we're very symbiotic in the way we write and what we like to write about, and the music that we like. Like I said, we like bands like Fishbone and Bad Brains and punk, funk,
Yeah.
ska, reggae, metal,
Yeah.
whatever. You know,
Cool.
I don't like to do the same thing all night long. I like to keep it interesting. As a musician, I like to challenge myself and play a different style. So even though I've gone through a lot of members or players over the years, I still keep that dream, you know. I keep the idea of this is my band. So I'm always doing it. And we recorded, as a matter of fact, we did I don't know if we can get it on the screen or if you want to check out, like I said, go to stonerdudeart.com. I have, and go to YouTube.
Yeah.
You want to go to YouTube, you go type in Bong, B-O-N-G, Bong, and then Destroy All Humans. It was we were already writing it before the pandemic shut down.
I remember
But
that.
while everything was shut down and no one knew what the fuck was going to happen, it felt like, okay, let's finish our album.
Yeah.
You know, they're not going to let us go out to play in bars or clubs right now, so let's just go finish our music. So we did that. So go to YouTube, Bong, Destroy All Humans, full album. It's also on Spotify and all the major digital platforms.
Yeah.
And so that's my labor of love. Yeah, I'm still doing it to this day. I have a band here in Vegas called Hell Mary. H-E double hockey sticks, Mary, Hell Mary. That's with a great singer here in town. Her name's Mary Crea. And some great players. I play with guitar player. His name's Jeff Duncan. He plays with the band Armored Saint. He's been in the band for 30 years. He travels around the world. So I'm very, very honored that I have a really good musician who's a really cool dude that likes to play in this band with me. And we play a lot of, it's all covers, but we pick cool covers that we really like and we just rock them out. You know, we just have fun with them. We play a lot here at Vamped, Counts Vamped here in town. So that's two of my main projects. I also help my girlfriend Abby, her band Vox. It's VOXXX triple X Vox, and she came to Vegas a few years ago, and she is a singer songwriter, talented person that does many things. And I basically, not, and I can say this with all sincerity. Sure, when you're with somebody, you want to always do, or who you consider your girlfriend or your friend or whatever. You always want to do your best to help them along the way because it's what you do. And this is one of those unique cases where she does have some really great songs and she's willing to invest into it and make it better and get great players. And so far, over the past year, we've recorded a few songs here at the Tone Factory in Vegas, which is my favorite recording studio in Vegas. And right now, there's a song coming out here. Probably we just finished 4 songs. We're gonna release them like singles because that's the way it's done these days. I wish it was more like the album days, but that's my era, But nowadays you go to Spotify, you find an artist, and you just click on one song at a time. But I also think that it's a good thing though too, because I think artists now are compiling really good music that way. So anyways, we have actually official music that's being released, and she gets a lot of opportunities to perform live and to.
I've seen Vox live. They're fantastic.
Thank you.
She's got a great voice, amazing stage presence. Her and her bass player, or is a guitar player, female.
She has some different players in town. She plays.
Man, they were fantastic.
Yeah, she always finds really cool players to play with, and so yeah, I'm invested into it. But it's a very, I'm very proud of it too. The songs are great and it's fun, and again, I'm just trying to pick and choose a little bit more in my older years of what I want to put my time into. I try to put time into things that I would do regardless. In other words, if it's fun and it's good, I'll do it. For example, like when we talked about the coloring book earlier, I mean, that's just something I love to do. As a matter of fact, I'll talk about it again. My new coloring book, that's the Stoner Dude coloring book, StonerDudeArt.com, published by Avantpop Bookstore. So, yeah, Hail Mary, Vox, Bomb. I still get calls to play.
Those are the only ones I knew of.
I still sub for lots of bands in town. Like if somebody needs a drummer, and I got the night open, I'm more than willing to do it. Yeah. I'm more than willing to go out and play and make a little money and have a lot of fun. So yeah, that's what it's all about, man. Rock and roll, music, rock and roll, art. That's why I came to Vegas, and that's what I'm doing.
You're living the dream, dude. It's great. And you do great stuff, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, one last one is since we are in Vegas, and I know you're a huge fucking fan, which I am not, but the Raiders.
Boy.
You had a band with the Raiders. You were a parking lot band.
Wow.
Let's break into it.
You
Come
just
on.
reminded me of one of my other things that I do. Wow, how can I forget that? That's huge.
You got your own podcast with that, right? Are you on a podcast?
Okay, so I'll give you a little bit of that story.
Yeah.
How much time do we have?
We got all the time in the world.
All right, so yeah, Stoner Dude. That's me. Stoner Dude, the coloring book, right? That you've seen. A cornucopia of pages. You could color your brains out. StonerDudeArt.com. So, about 1999, I had been in the Bay Area now for a year or two. And I like talk radio. I just like talk radio. Like I like to talk, as you could tell.
Yeah.
And I like to listen to people talk. I've listened to so much music in my life that it's not that I'm jaded towards it. It's just that it just was something different.
Yeah.
So I started listening to talk radio, and I hope also happened to be a lifelong sport. Well, let me slow down here. I love sports, but I mostly love football. I love football, the game. I follow. I learn about history of football, the professional football, the merging of the AFL and the NFL, and all these things that go with it. That'll probably bore half the people listening right now, but I love that shit. I love monsters. I love mythology. I love hot chicks and playboys. I love all kinds of things, music and rock and roll and drums, but I also love football. Anyway, so I've been a football fan my whole life. And when I moved to the Bay Area, I can't say officially I was a Raider fan the way people talk about fanaticism.
Right.
I knew of the history of the Raiders. I remember 1976, 77 when they won their first Super Bowl when I was a kid. I followed their whole history, and I knew a lot about them. But at that point, I had never been to a game. I had never, as a matter of fact, I swore I would never go to a football game because they were just so expensive. And if the game's bad, it's a horrible experience, right? So, but I was excited when I moved to the Bay Area because I lived right by the Oakland Coliseum, and the Raiders were right there. Everything was just right there. And in the town I lived in, Alameda, there was all these old great stories of how John Matuzak and all the old players from the 70s used to go and terrorize the town. And I got really immersed in it, you know? And so I was more than happy to really get into this whole Raider thing at the time. And John Gruden was his first stint as head coach. And I was just excited about what was happening. And I had to go to the games, you know? And I eventually went to my first game against the New York Jets, which I was actually I was born in the Bronx, so my dad raised me around Jets stuff, and I knew about the history of both teams, but I went there, I just want to see a good game, and I want to have fun, you know. I go to the parking lot to the Raider game, my first Raider game, and it was very reminiscent of the Oakland Coliseum was also very well known for the Grateful Dead concerts prior to that, and I had gone to some of those I have a long history with the Oakland Coliseum. I used to travel just to go there for shows, and it would just fill up with all these people that were fanatics, and they just, not only they loved the team, but they all knew each other. They were friends. They're feeding each other. They're having fun. It was like a really kind of weird family kind of feeling, and I really just settled right into it, and I really liked it. Well, I also was starting to listen to talk radio. And I was listening to the Raider station that was talking Raiders all the time because it was football. And I heard one day I heard a talk show host talk about marijuana, pot. And it wasn't Raider related, but it was a sports figure. I think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar got busted for weed on the freeway or something like that.
Right.
And I just personally just kind of got defensive in my head, right? I picked up the phone and I called the number you know how radio stations, they say, call us now at 1-800, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, people wait on hold and they start to call. So I called. I picked up the phone and I called. And a lot of callers were giving themselves nicknames. I called myself StonerDude.
That was where it was
born.
born.
I'm calling about weed, right? I called about weed. I'm talking to this guy on the radio. He was laughing. I took a bong hit. You know, I was just having fun. And I swear to God, this was, as far as I knew, I would never do it again. It was just the one time I decided to do it. Well, I made the call and I had fun and that was that, right? So literally, again, this is a lot of times I tell these stories in the middle of the night. I have like this epiphany.
Right.
I literally went to sleep that night. I left my radio on really low volume while I was sleeping. And now it's like 6 a.m. or so. And my brother's getting up, going to work, and I'm still in bed sleeping. And I barely wake up just a little bit. And in the faint background, I heard them use my voice as a promo for a commercial for the show that I called in the back of my head. And I'm like, was that me? Right? They're like, yes, we got StonerDude on the phone and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my God, that was me. And a light bulb went off in my fucking head. I'm like, I'm going to do this every day. So for about a few years, I get on the phone in the afternoon and think of one-liners. And I became addicted to calling radio shows. I was having fun with it.
Did you do multiple ones or just the same?
I did. That's a good question. I started with one. I started doing multiple. Then I started coming up with different characters.
So it wasn't just StonerDude. It was
I was trying to come up with a character I was just cracking myself up. I was just thinking of funny shit to say that no one else would say for different shows. And I had all these different numbers written down. I eventually graduated to the Howard Stern Show. I started calling the Howard Stern Show because of that. That was like the top, you know. I got Howard Stern Show. I'll save that for the next interview because I could talk for fucking 10 hours about this shit. As far as the Raider stuff goes, so I go to my first Raider game. I'm excited. It's fun. I'm in this new area. I'm meeting new friends. I'm meeting musicians. I'm starting to call radio shows, and they know me as StonerDude. Talking football and Raiders, and it's just all fun. And I go to the games. I go to a couple games, and then I meet this musician friend of mine who lived in the Bay, who still lives there. And we just got together. We just hit it off as friends and musicians. And he's like, I've always wanted to start a Raider band. I'm like, huh, really? A Raider band? What's that all about? He told me this grand idea he had for a Raider band. We're going to make a band. I want to make a band, and I want to sing about the Raiders, and I want to, sing in front of all these fans and have a good time and just make music for them and do it. I'm like, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do that. Let's do exactly that. And we started writing songs, and the radio stations I was calling were starting to play our music.
No way.
Yeah. It like grew.
Wow.
It grew. And StonerDude concept, the next thing you know, I was calling radio shows, talking to the actual play-by-play voice at the time for the Raiders. His name's Greg Papa. He used to do a show every day, and he would even call me out. I wonder what StonerDude's doing today. I mean, it was just getting like really
surreal.
Fucking surreal is the word for it. And I just dove right into it. I was like, cool. I manifested this crazy weird thing, and it turned into something, and I just kept going. So so eventually I met some tailgaters, people who throw tailgate parties out in the parking lot. There was an opportunity I came across where they wanted a band. And I said, I got a band. Oh yeah, let's get StonerDude. He's on the radio. I hear he plays drums. So one day they had us play out there. They even arranged it, so we could get in the gate, and they fed us all this great food, and we did our first gig. well, I call it a gig. It was us playing in front of a bunch of screaming fans in a parking lot before a game.
That works.
But I mean, there's like 1,000 people in front of us.
That works.
There's a lot of people, and it went off great. And we ended up playing every home game for at least 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, we were out there. I was in that parking lot.
Shit.
And then eventually, and so I wrote a song called Raiderhead. I called it Raiderhead because the parking lot reminded me of the Deadheads.
Right, yeah.
So I called it Raiderhead. It's very stupid, simple, but that's what I went with. Well, H-E-D, Raiderhead. And Raiderhead took off, and we were a very popular, well-known band at all the Raider games. The local, very famous local sports bar called Ricky's Sports Theater, the owner, Ricky Ricardo, no relation to the Lucy's husband, but his name was Ricky Ricardo, and he liked me. We hit it off good, and he ended up having me our band play at every single Saturday night before every home game. For 10 years, we were the house band at Ricky's. So I would play Saturday night at the bar, and there'd be like all these old Raiders behind me. It was a very famous sports bar, Ricky's in San Leandro. And Fred Bolitnikoff and Kenny Stabler. I could go on and all these names no one probably even knows,
right? But
Raider fans know. And it was like, I mean, it was amazing. Yeah. One night, Carl Weathers, who played Apollo Creed in the Rocky movie, he was actually a Raider for a year. So he came to some alumni party, and he's sitting right behind my drum set, and that's fucking Apollo Creed, you know. And but those kind of guys that would come into the to watch us play and party, and I would get like maybe 3 hours of sleep. I didn't even unload my truck. I just parked it up against my window, and a few hours later, I get up and go straight to the Oakland Coliseum to go do it all, to set it all up in the parking lot. So yeah, we did that for a lot of years, and now talk about full circle. I moved from Oakland to Vegas,
and the Raiders followed you.
I was a little proactive and all that, but I don't want to tell you that. I'll save that story for another day. That's a teaser. So yeah, they followed me, and so now here I am, thinking I was never going to do that again, or maybe once in a while, and I would go back to Oakland and maybe do a gig once in a while for some old fans that love to hoop it up a little bit before a game. And now that the Raiders are here, it definitely behooves me to not take that 25 or year so history of being in a band, doing something very unique and specific, a tribute band to a sports team, which, by the way, there's no other one in the world.
Yeah.
And I defy anybody out there to do it. But to even keep a rock band together on its own is already hard to do.
Yeah.
Much less do it about a sports team. But I love it. Again, because of doing all those games or playing at all those games for all those years, I met so many people that are part of my life to this day, and always will be, like family, you know. Yeah. It's like, you know, when we met, or you meet somebody, next thing you know, they're in your life forever. So ultimately, Raiderhead's one of my bands too. And because I was so into doing talk radio 20 plus years ago, 25, 24 years ago, I was on the early days of internet, like we're doing a podcast. I was doing internet radio back in, 2002, 20 years ago, 21 years ago. Yeah. Some of the callers that would call the shows as like me, I would make friends with them. And eventually we got together and did our own radio show on the internet with like maybe 5 listeners, you know, but we do it.
Ahead of your time, before everyone else was doing it.
We were doing it before everybody else was doing it. You know, we call ourselves the Podfathers, by the way. That's our name. You can't steal it. If you ever do, make sure I get my cut. We're the Podfathers. So yeah, I did that, and off and on, I've been doing it now for 20 plus years. And now, as of now, if you go on YouTube, we always complain about YouTube, but thank God YouTube, we could go on YouTube.
Yeah. So
yeah, obviously, you know, you could go check out Bong, Destroy All Humans. That's my album. I also have a I'm a co-host. I'm not the. There's three of us, and we're all very equal in the way we approach the show. And we're just very fun. We have fun and we get along and we're friends, but it's very fast paced. Imagine people talking faster more than me. It's like a battle.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's great. We love doing it. And it's go to YouTube, type in Raider Fan Radio. Raider Fan Radio on YouTube. There's three of us on the screen. I drew the little icon of the little Raider fan screaming. So you can recognize it, but go check it out. We usually do a show for about an hour and a half. We know it during the season. We do it almost every week, but we just kind of do it like once a month or twice a month in between. But it's fun, and yeah, that's how. And I'm still call. Oh, by the way, I still call radio shows.
Really?
I still get a.
When do you have time?
I don't know. Like right now, if I heard something, I would just get on hold and call a radio show. And you're only on there for like half a minute, you know?
If you're on hold.
Well, hold. Yeah. Some of the radio shows know me, so they put me up to the front.
I bet.
But it took a long time. When I was calling Howard Stern on a full-time basis or all the time, I was getting up at, I didn't sleep. I would get on hold at 3 in the morning. 4 in the morning because it's New York. 3 hours difference, and I used to be on hold for a long time just to talk to Howard for. But here's the thing though. Again, you put all this work into it. If you get on the phone and you actually talk to Howard, first of all, it seems intimidating. It scares the shit out of me at first, the thought of it. And then when you're getting on hold and there's a whole show going on, it's like, am I really gonna talk to this? What am I gonna? Oh my God, they changed the subject. You know what I mean? All these things go through your head and you get nervous.
Yeah.
And then you got to just go for it. When he says your name and you start talking, it's like you got to be ready to jump in.
We covered a lot there. Let's see. Your bands, your art. What do you got coming up now? Where can people, if people coming into town, or is there any place you're going to be playing here soon in Vegas?
Well, by the time this is
summer?
up, I don't know exactly what. I kind of go month to month as far as the shows go. I usually get a call, and I'll help produce a show and put it together. So I don't have one specific I want to promote now. But if you come to Vegas, you come to some shows. First of all, you got to come to Avantpop Books. It's a store here in Vegas. Nice little, just off the strip. Perfect, great location.
True.
You can also pick up my coloring books, the StonerDude coloring book. Yeah. 24 full pages of mind-melting art by StonerDude. That's me, StonerDudeArt.com. Or you can get them online. And basically, just go to my website. Keep in touch with your publishing company.
Your Instagram.
My Instagram is StonerDude Art.
You play it Vamped a lot?
I play it Counts Vamped at least once a month. Sometimes a little more. And the band is Hail Mary, Vox, VOXXX, Bong, Raiderhead. Those are the 4 that I'm pimping these days.
I think we should be calling you Michael Manifestation now.
Well. Hey man, you got to think about it. You got to wish it, dream it, hope it, and make it happen too. You got to really put in the effort and not be disappointed when things don't work out. Because it's like
part of the journey.
It's a constant. It's a constant. But anyway, so thank you very much.
Yeah. On that note,
for having me
Stoner
here
Dude,
today.
always a pleasure. Let's go smoke some weed.
Sounds good to me, man.
All right.
Later.
I want to thank Stoner Dude for joining us on this episode and entertaining us as only he can. You can find Stoner Dude's artwork and coloring book at StonerDudeArt.com, as well as the Avantpop Bookstore in Las Vegas and AvantpopBooks.com. The theme music for Avantpop Bookstore Presents is performed by artist Dillashoe. And I hope you can join us again for another edition of Avantpop Bookstore Presents.